Hey friends, what's up? This is Metro and welcome to the best Sevem build in the game. Today we're gonna look into Sevem. If you have not played Sevem in a while, ever since last patch, he is absolutely insane. His win rate skyrocketed. He's like top 3 heroes in almost every rank. He's really strong. Pro players are picking him up more, and I think he's one of the hardest carry characters in the game now. And all that changed is you can now cast your ult and then cast the Thunderbolt immediately. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but it makes for insane burst. And I have a very special build for you today that I've worked on for the last 2 weeks. I've played a lot of Sevem, got to Eternus on 7 only mostly on a new count. As always, let me know in the comments if you have any questions, and let's get right into it. Also, tell me if I suck. Most people build him like a farmer. They level up the ball early, right? They get multiple levels in ball, get rapid recharge, and farm with the ball, and stay AFK a long time, farm a lot, and then they come out of the jungle at like 25 minutes, and hard carry, right? And we're gonna have a little bit of a different approach. We're gonna play Sevem like a hard carry, but the hard carry kicks in way earlier. In laning stage, we still level up ball first on level 1, just because it allows us to deal good damage to the enemy in laning, right? It allows us to push creep waves, get last hits on creeps. It's a really good farming tool in the lane and then in the early mid game, right? And then on level 2, we get static charge for stun and immediately level it up to level 2 to get the lower cooldown so we can win the lane really easily. Sevem is actually an insane laner. I really like playing him solo lane nowadays. He has insane regen, especially if you get extra regen. Like, he is insane. Like, on level 1, right? I'll show this to you real quick if you don't know. On level 1, you gain like, basically like 8 health a second, right? And that's like the highest regeneration I think in the game on base level. Pretty short. Not even Mo and Krill or Calico regen as much. Obviously there's like actives. But yeah, so we level up ball first, and then get static charge 1 level, and then we put one point in static charge and 1 point in ball. I put 1 point in ball just to have a second ball, so I can use it whenever I need it. And static charge having 1 extra level is just really high value, because it basically halves the cooldown, right? So you have to stun ready whenever you need it as well. And then we end up leveling up Power Surge all the way from level 1 to level 5. In between, I put 2 levels usually in Power Surge, and then I put 1 level in Cloud Storm, or Storm Cloud, whatever it's called, just so it's a bit more useful early. You can skip this if you want, but the main idea of this build is we're making our 3 insane early with Surge of Power. So we have insane damage early, insane farming speed, and then we end up leveling the ult, and then we end up leveling the static charge. Okay, so this is a hybrid build. It's not an ult build, and I would say most of the power comes from the 3 early and mid game, but the longer you go into the game, the more high level items you get, the more value your Storm Cloud is gonna get, and then we're gonna have an insane power spike in the late game as well that also makes our stun better, okay? So it's really a ballless Sevem, and the only time we throw balls is A, for farming, and B, if we're in an engagement, right, we wait, we stun them, we chase them down, and when they get stunned, this is where we throw the ball to add some extra damage in, okay? And that's all we're gonna use the ball for until the very late game. Yeah, but in laning stage, I like rushing orange items kind of early. We go for rapid rounds. The normal fire rate of Sevem is actually quite low, right? It's quite hard to farm fast with him. It's quite a slow fire rate. So rapid rounds just makes him feel way more responsive in lane, and like increases the damage quite a lot. Then we go for Hollow Point Ward and Basic Magazine. Okay, Basic Magazine is kind of a must on this character in my opinion, because the base mag is also pretty small. But once you get to Basic Magazine, you basically have enough bullets to where you can one clip an enemy without having to reload once, because we don't really run any reload perks on this in this build either. Okay, so we go for orange items. I buy extra regen whenever I need it. Sometimes I skip this completely, but it's really nice to have early, so you can play even more aggressive, right? You can kind of tank everything the enemy throws at you in lane with your regen. And then we go for Infuser, and this item is like the key to carrying in lane. Okay, once we get to Infuser, the way Infuser works is, obviously it gives us spirit power and spirit lifesteal. So it does 2 things for us in lane, okay? A, it's gonna increase the duration of our power surge, because the duration scales with spirit, okay? B, it's gonna increase the damage of our power surge, but more importantly, it's gonna give us a lot of burst damage in the Storm Cloud and a lot of lifesteal in the Storm Cloud, right? So all you have to do in lane, if you're engaging, is you pop Infuser and pop the rest of your cooldowns, and then before Infuser runs out, you want to ultimate and immediately Storm Cloud the enemy. And what this does is, it gives you one of the highest burst combos out of any character in the early game. Let me just show this on a random enemy. So you pop Infuser, you pop this. Oops, I didn't have the cooldown. Awkward. Let me add a second hero. Okay. So you pop Infuser, you pop your 3, shoot a few shots, and you ult and nuke them, and they die instantly. It is insane burst, and you also have insane lifesteal with this, because you get the 20% spirit lifesteal from Infuser. And that is the entire combo we really do in lane. Up until we get to 3k souls, up until we get the ult, we're not super lethal. We can still contest the enemy and trade really well, because we regen so much, right? But once we get the ult, we just kind of run into the enemy, put down stun, right? Shoot our shots, and you can get this full combo off while the Infuser is still running, because the Infuser lasts for 8 seconds, right? So it's really essential that you pop Infuser before Power Surge to get extra damage and extra duration. It's gonna also increase, obviously, your damage on Static Charge and Lightning Ball, but we really want that survivability and extra burst on Storm Cloud, right? And that change alone is what makes Sevem so insane in lane. Like, he's one of the best laners in the game. He rarely loses any matchup because of his regen, and he's just really, really good, right? So, and that's all we really need after we go for extra spirit, because later down the line we'll improve this, we'll upgrade this to improved spirit and boundless, and then we get extra stamina. Best 500 item in the game. I don't have to, I talk about this item every guide, so I'm gonna skip it for now. You could run Ammo Scav. It's also a great option because, you know, it gives you extra spirit, and extra spirit is really valuable on Sevem. But in this build, we really want to go to like the mid-game core items as fast as possible, because they help us speed up the farming by a lot. And the first mid-game item we get, which is usually like towards the end of the lane, is by Cold Front. And it seems like a really weird item because Sevem already farms really fast, but this really allows you to clear creep waves and lanes insanely fast, right? It works in conjunction with Infuser, so the damage goes up when you pop Infuser. So if you get to a creep camp, what you can do at this point, right? You go in, pop Infuser, and pop your Power Surge, and the creep camps are gonna die insanely fast. This allows us to clear any tier 2 creep camp really fast, any tier 1, tier 2, and any laning. The only thing we don't want to use it on is tier 3 camps, because those are going to be really easy later down the line as well. But yeah, it's just a really useful farming tool, and it's also obviously really good in fights, right? When you chase down the enemy, you go for a stun, right? And as soon as they get stunned and you're close, you drop the ball and drop your Cold Front, and they get slowed more, right? And then you ult. And before I forget this, another great tip that works in general that I'm going to mention here, because I'm going to forget otherwise. You can use the Storm Cloud second cast, whatever it's called, the Thunder Strike, to boop them back into your ult. So what you can do is, if they run away from you, you can cast the Thunder Strike behind them and boop them back into your ult. So the way this would look like is, this guy is running away, and I cast my Thunder Strike behind him, and that way he's gonna get booped back into my ult, right? And if you do this well, you can increase your damage overall with your ult by quite a lot, right? So that is a thing you can keep in mind. This thing boops, and boops them really far if they're moving in the wrong direction as well. That's a more advanced technique for this. And then we go for Enchanter's Barrier. I've talked in my last video on Wraith, I've talked about how good barriers are in general, and Enchanter's Barrier just works really well with this character, right? We like having early spirit with this, and especially our 3 goes up so much in damage and duration if we have more spirit, and this is just gonna allow us to have more spirit active at all times. And then we go for Soul Shredder bullets, which is also gonna increase our damage from our 3 when we shoot the enemy, right? It's gonna give us extra lifesteal against one target. And then we go for the big power spike, which is Surge of Power. And the way I made this build is, it lines up beautifully, because at the time you get 3k for Surge of Power, is also going to be the time when you can actually level up the Power Surge to maximum level, where you get 5 points and you can level it up. It's almost at the same time, right? And at level 3 Power Surge, the damage increases drastically and the spirit scaling increases drastically, right? So this is gonna up our damage of our 3 by an insane amount. So if I spawn a camp, I would love to show this off at like a full tier 3 camp, but we're in the practice range, so I can only show it to you with this. But at this point, right, we're not really super farmed. We pop Infuser and pop our Power Surge, and at this point, starting from this point and forward, we are the fastest farmer in the game. I don't know a single other character that can farm tier 3 creep camps as fast as Sevem. And notice how we're at 10k, but the Power Surge already lasts for a very long time, right? So if I pop Infuser and Power Surge, this is gonna last for a very long time already. In fact, it shows 15 seconds, but it's even more because we popped Infuser, and the tooltip also doesn't show Enchanter's Barrier. So it lasts for like a duration of 20 seconds, around 20, and the cooldown is only 33. So what this means in practice is you will have Power Surge up almost all the time, starting from this point, and it's still really early in the game. And at this point, you don't really have to be scared. As long as you have as much farm as the enemy, even if you have a bit less, you win most fights in the game, even 1v1s, right? Because if you stun them and you use your cooldowns, you have insane burst, and if it comes to the point where you're scared of the enemy, then you pop ult, right? And you do insane damage, and you also, again, have really, really good healing here because of Infuser and, at this point, Soul Shredder bullets. And we're gonna make that even better later down the line, or right now, I should say, because after we buy Fleetfoot to give us a bit more movement speed. You know, Sevem is a fast farmer, and one of his greatest strengths is the ability to be able to kite and chase down and chase away enemies real quick. And at this point, we're already insanely fast. If you guys don't know, the movement speed of Sevem scales directly with Spirit as well. So at this point, when we pop full auto and Fleetfoot, we are speeding, right? And we can shoot, because we have Fleetfoot, we can shoot without any movement penalty. So at this point, we are speeding. So it's really easy to get in and out of fights. It's really easy to chase down targets that you have to stun on. And we just run around and hunt people. That being said, we're not gonna actively look for fights at this point. Sevem is still a farmer, and we are, at this point, again, the fastest farmer in the game. So what you want to focus on is clearing all waves as fast as possible, pushing towards the enemy walkers, and clearing tier 3 creep camps, right? And you're gonna snowball from there. It's like a power spike, and you're gonna snowball and gain souls rapidly from this point on. Before this, the farming speed is kind of low-ish, but after, you farm rapidly. Things you shouldn't do, or you should try to avoid doing, is solo pushing walkers, because unlike Wraith, for example, Sevem is not great at solo pushing walkers. He doesn't have escape abilities, right? And his damage to walkers is actually quite low, because walkers now, since the last patch, or the patch that made it, since the patch that reduced the spirit damage taken by buildings by 50%, Sevem takes quite a long time to kill walkers. So walkers I would only really push if it is a safe push, if the enemy team is occupied, or if you have teammates around you that can help you out, right? And you want to think of Sevem as like more of a team fighter. And in team fights, he excels, right? Like, if he has anyone in front of him, he can accelerate, but you don't necessarily look for 1v1s. You can win all of them, but you want to look at them passively. You farm, and if someone engages you, so Haze comes out of Invis and tries to, like, ult you, right? You stun, and you pop your Fleetfoot and full Power Surge. If the Haze were gonna ult you, you are out of the ult radius before you die, right? Because you're so fast. So as soon as the Haze pops out of Invis, you stun, pop your Fleetfoot, pop your full auto, kite them away, wait until they're stunned, and then you go back in, right? And then you press ult, and they die. It's, again, insane burst. And then we go for Spirit Lifesteal. This is like more so a tool that gives us consistently more healing, because the longer the game goes on, the more powerful our ult is gonna get, right? And the way we stay alive in our ult is we lifesteal everyone on the enemy. And yes, we do have Infuser, but if Infuser is off cooldown, right? If it's the 8-second cooldown, or if it's off, we're not gonna get lifesteal against everyone. Soul Shredder bullets is only gonna give us a lifesteal against the one target we shot, right? So this is gonna make our team fighting and sustain even better. And then we go for Mystic Vulnerability. I should probably mention what to sell at this point in case you don't have flex slots yet. The first thing I would sell is Rapid Rounds or Hollow Point Ward, depending on what you like more. I think they're both great items, but if you need the flex slot, you sell one of them. That's what I usually go for. Mystic Vulnerability obviously is just gonna, you know, increase our damage even more because we reduce the enemy's spirit resist. Healbane, you don't really have to sell anything because usually at this point you have a maximum of 4 green items, and if you really have to, you sell extra regen. And then improved spirit, again, you don't have to sell anything because it upgrades beautifully from extra spirit. And that's it, right? It's actually quite a cheap build if you look at the early to mid game. The thing with Sevem is though, the more money you have, the better, right? Like Sevem does need a lot of money to be really scary. Usually you want to be like the top net worth on your team or around the top net worth. And this build is going to allow you to do that quite well because, again, we have such an early power spike with Surge of Power. And then in late game, I usually go for Spiritual Overflow first. What this does is, once you proc it, right, it gives us more spirit, more fire rate. So if you engage the enemy with your spells, right, you start doing insane damage and your fire rate goes up quite significantly. And obviously, Spiritual Overflow is going to last for a long time. It lasts for 18 seconds. Which means there's more than enough time to proc it, use all your stuff, and then if you have to, you can still ult, right? And then the ult is also stronger with the 50 extra spirit that you have. Okay, and then I go for Mystic Slow. You can also go this first, but the reason Mystic Slow is so amazing on this character, in my opinion, is it's very easy to apply spirit damage to everyone around you, right? Like you have the mass AoE from your Power Surge, and obviously the ult is gonna hit everything around you, right? So this is a mass debuff to the enemy. It's gonna make it so they can't fight back if the enemy has a lot of gun damage and they try to trade with you in ult, right? And they try to shoot you down. A lot of the time they think they can kill you, and then suddenly they have 40% less fire rate and they can't kill you at all, and you steal life faster than, you know, they can take it from you, and you just win by staring at them. Which I guess now is a good point to look at the overall skill build. After we max Surge of Power, as I mentioned before, we max the ultimate. More time, more channel duration, more radius, more damage, and we can move during it, right? And then we max our stun after. And by the time you have those items, by the way, if you don't have a flex slot, at this point you can probably sell Infuser. Or you sell Rapid Rounds. I think they're both... I would probably sell Rapid Rounds. I usually go like 50-50 on it. If I feel like I shoot the gun a lot, then I sell Infuser. If I feel like I use my ult more, then I would actually sell Rapid Rounds. But yeah, at this point, you will have almost max level on Static Charge. And once you get to max level on Static Charge, you can buy Echo Shard. Okay? And Echo Shard is gonna give us another insane power spike, because at this point you can double stun the enemy. So you want to use Echo Shard on your 2. So what you do is you start the engagement, right? You pop Infuser and pop your Power Surge, and then the first person you see that you want to kill, you stun, wait a second, Echo Shard, and they're gonna be stunned. And if you time it correctly, they're basically gonna be chain locked and chain stun locked. And the stun duration at this point is 1.8 seconds. So if you hit 2 stuns, they're gonna be stunned for they're gonna be on the ground for 4 seconds, right? And everyone around them is also gonna be on the ground, right? So again, you stun, wait a tiny second, and stun again, right? And then they won't be able to play the game, literally, right? And then you can ult, do whatever. And then we go for Boundless Spirit. Spirit is amazing on this character, and the reason Raw Spirit is amazing on this character is because every single ability of this character scales really well with Spirit, right? Like ult scales well. It's a 0.7 multiplier, which increases DPS by quite a lot. Right now we're doing 279 DPS, and once we buy Boundless, we're at 306. And then at this point, even before, by the way, if you proc Spiritual Overflow, which you're gonna do because you shoot them, right? So once you proc Spiritual Overflow, you're gonna realize with my Infuser that, oh sorry, I have no cooldown on. But what you're gonna realize is, once you proc Power Surge, right? This is gonna last for basically the entire duration. There's gonna be very little downtime. So I don't know, I think it's gonna be like 5 seconds around there. My Power Surge is still active. And I think There's no downtime. There's a 1 second downtime, and now you have power surge again. So for the people that like running something like duration extender, right? It is valuable, but I don't think it's necessary in this build because you have so much spirit. You really already have power surge on max level. There is a point to buying it though, which we're gonna get into in a second. So yeah, then you go boundless spirit, and then you can really go for whatever you like at this point, whatever you need. I like improved reach on my stun because it increases stun radius an insane amount, right? So you stun and look at the AoE of the stun, right? Like look at this AoE. This makes it so the entire enemy team is basically going to be chain stun for 4 seconds. It's like an ult in itself, right? Yeah, and then if you need, you buy Unstoppable if the enemy has a lot of stuff, like if they have a lot of knockdowns to stop you from ulting, if they have a Lash, if they have a Mo and Krill, right? There's a lot of characters that can get you out of ult. Sometimes I buy this earlier, sometimes I rush it if the enemy has a lot of stuns that can get me out of ult. But yeah, Unstoppable, situationally great, but never a wrong buy in late game. Same for Leech, because it's just an upgrade from Healbane. And then I have a few other interesting items in situational that are also really good. There's just so many good items on this character. There's really, after this point, after you have your like core late game here, there's really no wrong buy, I guess. Superior cooldown you can buy if you feel like you need more ults, right? The ult is a very long cooldown, so if once you buy this, suddenly your ult cooldown goes down by like 40 seconds from 130 to 90. So that's nice if you want it. You can go for Divine as Kevlar to give you even more spirit power in your ult, give you even more tankiness, right? Spell Singer headshots as like a luxury upgrade. I still think this item is kind of weak, but it does build out of Soul Shredder, so you're not really wasting a slot, right? So you can buy this if you have a lot of money. Or you go for a superior duration on your 2, right? Because then suddenly your stun lasts for quite a long time. And then I do end up buying spirit armor or bullet armor, depending on what I need quite a lot in this, because there's really not a lot of things we need in the flex slots. At that point, you can probably get rid of Enchanter's Barrier, or if you want to get rid of extra stamina, if you feel like it doesn't do enough for you. It's not super needed anymore, extra stamina in the late game, because you're already so fast at moving, right? Like, you don't really need to move around, like you don't really need to jump dash a lot, because you have such fast movement speed anyways. So extra stamina is an item I would sell on this character if you need to, and then yeah, go for either improved bullet armor or improved spirit armor, depending on what the enemy does damage wise. And that is really about it. And yeah, Sevem is insane. I think he's one of the hardest carry characters in the game right now, especially if you solo queue in ranked. This is probably my second best character now, right? Like, I always thought my Warden is almost as good as my Wraith, but I'm having as much success, if not more, on Sevem as on Wraith right now. He's really, really strong. And if you want to see this build in action, I'm live every day on YouTube, and it's not really a sellout. The reason I'm mentioning it is, if you click on my live tab, I have like 20 VODs up over the last few days that are like hours and hours of gameplay of this, which show you the build in action and really show you how strong it is. Because I think you have to see it in order to believe it, or you try it yourself. Yeah, that's about it. Play Sevem, and let me know what you think in the comments. Until next time, see you friends, bye bye.